Hey guys, what is happening and welcome back to the channel. It's been over a month since I've been able to put something out on here, but I am now prepped and ready to begin the new year, starting off with our traditional top 10s of the previous year for both anime and heavy metal. 2018 was a strong year for anime when it came to sequels, but not so much with original shows, at least if you had to ask me personally. Well, there definitely were some new and original shows that blew me off my feet. I'm afraid to say that 2018 was the year in which sequels were king and completely dominated my list of anticipated releases. Hopefully 2019 will be like 2017, where there were a lot more new and original shows than sequels, but I guess we'll only discover whether that will be the case or not come the beginning of 2020. Now, before we begin, I would like to remind you all that this list is purely subjective and based on my own personal tastes. So if your favorite show or shows did not make it to this list, then let me know what your top 10 anime of 2018 were down in the comments, and if there is any show that you would like to recommend to me that I maybe missed or you think is worth checking out, then also be sure to leave that down there as well. For now, kick back, relax, and enjoy this list of my top 10 anime of 2018. Number 1. Overlord 2 and 3. Now, while I can't say I was necessarily anticipating these sequels, seeing as I only watched the first season of Overlord this year, I was, nevertheless, thankful that the show got 2 seasons in 1 year. Overlord is currently, without a doubt, the best isekai show that I have watched in quite some time that wasn't a parody or generic harem ecchi series. There are many things I love about this show. Its writing and world building is exceedingly strong. Almost all of the characters, and there were a crap ton of them, have depth to them, are interesting from the get-go, and are managed surprisingly well considering just how large the cast is. The character designs are exceptionally well thought out, and I really enjoyed the music. My only real gripe with the show was its over-reliance on CGI, which doesn't look good at all, and sometimes the animation can feel a little rigid and stiff. However, the show as a whole is still very entertaining, and at least the CGI can give you a good laugh from time to time, unlike Berserk 2016, which just makes you cringe. Ugh! I simply loved this series, and I'm hoping that there will be a 4th season on the horizon. Also, this show is a great alternative to Sword Art Online when it comes to introducing new anime fans to the isekai genre. So, if you're a fan of roleplay games, Game of Thrones style politics, and Log Horizon, then Overlord is a show that is worth every minute of your time. Make sure you check it out now. Number 2. Violet Evergarden. Out of all the new and non-sequel series titles to have been released this year, Violet Evergarden definitely tops them all. The story is a simple yet emotional one that really hits home and does so in spectacular fashion. The plot follows the journey of a young girl named Violet, who, after fighting as a child soldier in a devastating war, now has to adapt to normal life and takes up a job as an auto memories doll. This means that Violet is tasked with writing letters for clients who are perhaps either illiterate or lack the ability and skill to articulate their feelings clearly into words. In doing this job, we slowly begin to see Violet's journey from being a near emotionless killing machine to learning what the words "I love you" mean. And this story is one that really connected with me on a very deep and personal level with its themes and characters. With breathtaking animation, stunning character designs, gorgeous backgrounds, and an enchanting score, excellent voice acting, and brilliant storytelling, Violet Evergarden is one of those shows that is too important to ignore, and there definitely won't be another show like it. Just be sure to keep a warehouse full of tissue boxes next to you when you watch this show, as every episode is bound to leave you sobbing with either joy, sadness, or a mix of both. Watch Violet Evergarden now! Number 3. Full Metal Panic: Invisible Victory. If there is one anime on this list that I would put at the number 1 spot, at least if I took this ranking then a little bit more seriously, it would have to be the long-awaited sequel for the iconic mecha series, Full Metal Panic. Seriously, by the time Invisible Victory had been released, it had been well over 13 years since we last heard from this series in the form of Full Metal Panic: The Second Raid, which ended on a major cliffhanger. Invisible Victory picks up immediately from where the second raid left off, and the ride doesn't stop for even a second to catch its breath. Right out of the gate, we are greeted with an intense chase scene, followed by a terrorist attack, hostage drama, and an all-out war between Mithril and Amalgam. If there is one criticism I have of the show, it's the fact that they decided to use CGI when animating the mechas, but the way in which the action scenes were directed and choreographed, plus the fact that the CGI mechs move rather fluidly in comparison to what's usually out there, I found myself overlooking this factor as the show went on, and the writing and character development was just so damn good that it was hard to even be mad at the studio for making this decision. This was a sequel filled with a lot of tension, hype, and some really emotional moments. Plus, it was great to see not only some of my favorite characters return after 13 long years of absence, but the fact that the original dub cast made a stellar return to reprise their roles was another bonus. And who could forget the fact that the ending used the opening and ending themes from the previous seasons to really nail the emotional weight home as the credits began to roll. I cannot praise this series enough. If you have only recently begun your anime viewing journey, then I highly recommend watching this show, starting with season 1 in its entirety. Even if mechas aren't your thing, there is something in this show for all audiences, and the characters are just so likable and lovable that you'll be begging for more. Go and check out Full Metal Panic: Invisible Victory now! Number 4. My Hero Academia Season 3. Well, here we have another sequel on the list. Surprise, surprise. Anyways, while this season fell ever so slightly short of the masterpiece that was the second season, the third season of My Hero Academia definitely had many amazing moments from both a visual and a storytelling perspective. Studio Bones have yet to disappoint me when it comes to the overall quality and consistency of their work on this show. I don't think there is even one moment I can point to where the animation felt flat or the directing felt jaded and awkward. Every scene is packed with raw passion, and you can really tell that the staff working on this show are having a blast while doing so. The music is something that, while always good, definitely took some risks, and it actually paid off. I mean, it takes balls to put deathcore or death metal styled growling vocals in a score for a show that is pretty mainstream, especially considering the usual reaction from people when they hear the music that I listen to. So unless you've been living under a rock, are sick of the nonsense happening in the Western comic book industry, and have never heard of My Hero Academia, I suggest you do yourselves a favor and binge watch this show immediately. Number 5. Attack on Titan Season 3 Part 1. You thought this entry was going to be a new or original series, but it was I, Attack on Titan, back to haunt you all the way from 2013. Okay, that was a poor JoJo reference coming from someone who hasn't watched the show and honestly has little to no interest in watching it, but the meme fits the reason why this show is on this list perfectly. So this segment is going to be rather short in comparison to the others because what more can be said about this show that hasn't been said already? It's got amazing animation, heart-pounding and adrenaline-fueled action scenes, plot twists galore, an epic score, a strong cast of characters, and so much more. Attack on Titan Season 3 Part 1 is a fantastic continuation to prior seasons, and if you have yet to watch this series and you've been living under a rock, then I strongly recommend that you check it out as soon as possible. Do it now. Number 6, Steins Gate Zero. Okay, so I get that not many people enjoyed Steins Gate Zero as much as the original series, and to be fair, I can understand and sympathize with many of the arguments being made against this sort of sequel, but I personally loved Steins Gate Zero, and despite its flaws, it did introduce a lot of new and interesting ideas to the story, and actually managed to show us different perspectives of some of the more minor characters and flesh out certain areas of other characters that were only lightly touched upon in the original. Steins Gate Zero is something that I'd recommend that die-hard fans of the franchise or more casual fans who are able to accept the show more for what it is than being over analytical and critical of it. Oh, fuck, that's what I tend to do. Shit. While Steins Gate Zero is definitely a lot darker and more depressing in tone, and it is rather sad to see the usually wacky and comedic Okabe in such a melancholic state, it was definitely worth the ride, and there are still plenty of great plot and character moments within the show to keep you invested in watching until the end. The animation is very familiar and reminiscent of the original series with the same art direction and character designs. The score is solid, though nowhere near as impactful as that of the original series, and of course the voice acting is still as great as it ever was, with the original cast returning to reprise their respective roles. So if you're into time travel, sci-fi, conspiracy theories, drama, and all that awesome stuff, then I highly recommend that you check out Steins Gate Zero. Number 7. Megalobox. I don't normally watch sports anime. I mean, there are a few that I have enjoyed over the years, such as Kuroko no Basket, Yowamushi Pedal, Haikyuu, and maybe a handful of others. But Megalobox definitely had my interest peaked from the moment the trailers for it dropped. What drew me to the series was its very retro aesthetic. Everything from the 90s anime art and character designs, the more muted color palettes that gave it that old school hand-drawn animation look, the kick-ass soundtrack, and of course its simple but elegant premise. Basically, Megalobox takes place sometime in the future, and Megalobox is the hottest and most popular sport, where boxers armed with mechanical gears that enhance their strength and speed duke it out in the ring. The story follows our protagonist, simply known as Gearless Joe, and as his name implies, he does not fight using gears, and we follow his journey as he tries to reach his goal of becoming the world's greatest boxer. Now, is this story anything special? Not really. This kind of story is rather typical of the sports genre. However, the story has a cast of interesting and layered characters who have their own motivations and goals, and their interactions are extremely engaging to watch. The retro style mixed with a soundtrack that is inspired by mostly modern hip-hop, industrial and electronica really give the show a unique aesthetic that most of its fellow contemporaries lack, and it's overall a fun and enjoyable show. If you are a fan of 90s anime and sports, then this is the show for you. Go and check it out now. Number 8. Darling in the Franxx. Now, I'm expecting that I'll probably get a bit of flack for putting this show on the list, but seriously, this show was not as bad as some people have claimed it to be. Am I saying that Darling in the Franxx is a masterpiece and deserved all the hype that it got during its airtime? No, of course not. But the show was definitely above average. Franxx had a plot that did follow a fairly logical and linear path and was, as Digibro put it, trigger light in essence. The show is basically just an all-around fun amalgamation of sci-fi and mecha anime that you have seen before, from Evangelion to Gurren Lagann and everything in between. Normally, I would side with the crowd criticizing the show for its laziness and lack of inspiration, but considering the fact that the show, in its presentation and execution, seems to be aimed at more casual anime fans, I would say that it's harmless and was a pretty fun show with some genuine heartfelt moments. I also found its overall themes to be ones that needed to be said, especially in this day and age where there seems to be so much animosity between men and women, and remind us, especially young people, just how much we all need each other. Anyways, cheesiness aside, the show has a nice art style that brings the best elements of both Trigger and A1 Pictures together. The soundtrack, especially the opening theme, was enjoyable. The action scenes were as crazy as any other Trigger show out there. The characters were mostly likable, the plot was simple and easy to follow, and overall it was just fun. I would absolutely recommend this show to more casual fans or the very die-hard Trigger fans that will support anything that they have worked on. I have a feeling that this show might be one of the more mainstream gateway introductions into the mecha genre, which will hopefully see more new fans interested in and checking out the great classics that inspired it. So what I'd say to you is go and watch Darling in the Franxx now if you haven't already done so. Number 9. Zombieland Saga. Well, I'm normally not one for idol shows. I mean, seriously, just the little bits of the likes of Love Live and the Idol Master that I have seen has been more than enough for me to stomach. But Zombieland Saga is a completely different ballgame. I'm not going to go so far as to say it's the My Hero Academia of idol anime that I've heard some anime fans claim it's to be, but the comedy of the show, the fact that it likes to take the piss out of so many storylines, tropes, and archetypes found within many idol anime shows, and the overall chemistry between the characters is something I found it to be rather entertaining. Basically, the plot of the show revolves around a group of girls who wake up as zombies and essentially have to save a town from what nobody knows exactly by working together and performing as an idol pop group. Though they have to keep their identities as zombies as a secret since the public won't be willing to accept them as they are. And, of course, they have to do a variety of performances and promotions under the guidance of their overly eccentric manager, Kotaro Tatsumi. No matter what your opinion of this show is, one thing is certain, and that is the fact that it definitely has its own unique style and is a show that I don't think many people expected to have come out from this genre of anime. Overall, this is an extremely enjoyable and entertaining anime. It's not trying to be something deep, it's not trying to be a deconstruction of the idol anime genre or anything of that kind. It is simply a hilarious, knee-slapping comedy that will undoubtedly provide us with an abundance of memes long after the show has finished airing. So if you're looking to enjoy something that will give you a few chuckles, Zombieland Saga is the show for you. Number 10. Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer was a show that had a lot of hype surrounding it since it was announced that it was getting an anime adaptation sometime back. And while it did not begin its airing without some kind of controversy, which was completely overblown in my opinion, After viewing it, I can say it is one of the more tame and harmless fantasy shows that I have watched in comparison to many others like Berserk, Ninja Scroll, Garden of the Sinners, Wicked City, Devilman, and many others. Goblin Slayer is a show that would appeal mostly to people who are heavy into RPGs and fantasy. Though if you had to ask me, the thing that keeps it from being a great fantasy anime along with the classics like the original Record of Lodoss War, Berserk, Guin Saga and others is the fact that from both a visual and writing standpoint, it tries to appeal to audiences of both traditional fantasy and fans of modern isekai anime. Also, sometimes the animation can feel a little off with Goblin Slayer's armor being animated in CG from time to time. Otherwise, Goblin Slayer is a mostly tame and harmless fantasy show coming from the perspective of a seasoned anime fan. If this show is your first dark anime, then be sure to ask around and get an informed opinion on the show before you watch it. Don't say you weren't warned. So if you love fantasy, D&D, and basically just want to watch a badass character go around killing goblins the way Doom Guy kills demons in Doom, then this is the show for you. Thank you all for watching. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and you like what it is that I do here, then you can help me out by subscribing, hitting that notification bell, dropping a like, a comment, and sharing this video with your friends. You can also help support the channel and ensure that YouTube remains my full-time job by donating to my monthly Patreon, link in the description. And finally, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, my anime list, Reddit, and many other places. Links also in the description. Happy 2019 everyone, and until the next video, take care of yourselves, and as always, have a kick-ass day. Cheers!